I love running this company. I love running it because of the people I deal with. There's such a great team of people.
From a career perspective, it's the best move I ever did. I'm enjoying the work. I'm currently on a project and booked for another project soon.
It's given me the opportunity to work with lots of different types of technology and explore some stuff that I maybe only dabbled in at university or before.
SSW is a company that makes enterprise software solutions, and that's what we do. We build software for clients on demand. We build bespoke solutions using the latest technology and the latest best practices.
I've been involved in the development of some mining software, been involved in the development of software for a legal firm, and everything in between there. Even in just under 2 years, I've been working across so many different projects.
We play as hard as we work. You know, it's just a really great place to come into, and I always look forward to coming to work.
So since I've been working here, I've really been pushed, and that's what I wanted. You come to a place where you're working with a team of just absolute weapons. We've got the best in the business here, and that's an exciting place to be.
The guys are very passionate about doing things right the first time. We share our best practices with the community and with our clients and with others. Using conferences, we speak at events, and also we have the SSW rules, which is a huge archive of the best way to do everything.
The management here is totally approachable. So if you have a better way of doing it, or you know of a better method, then everything is up for discussion. As an example, say authentication. So a lot of the guys are building authentication into their apps, and they've been through many different ways of doing that. So generally what ends up happening or coming from that is a discussion around what's the best way of doing it. And we come to a decision based on industry best practice, as well as our own experiences on what the best method and approach is. And that then turns into a rule that we have on our rules.ssw.com.au website.
What really defines this company and make it work is the fact that we have people that are able to share their knowledge and solve complex problems together. It's a wide variety of different clients, different structures, different sizes, different industries, and different technologies as well.
The world we live in now is just so many light years above the world that we were working with even 5 years ago. We get into lots of topics deeply, and it's fascinating how it all works and why it works. You know, we get paid to make fancy jigsaw puzzles.
Access granted.
Developing software is a unique opportunity to be creative and technical at the same time. It gives you the opportunity to solve problems. It gives you the opportunity to exercise and flex your mental muscles by solving problems and figuring things out, while also being creative.
You can feel that energy when you come into the office. There's a really good vibe and connection between everybody who works together here. It's really collaborative, and we even have the tools for doing that collaboration now as well through Microsoft Teams. We always try and team up in pairs where possible for client work. 2 heads are always better than one.
I believe being a developer, a good developer, is writing good quality code. But being a great consultant, which we are at SSW, is half-half between technical skills and communication. That's what makes us different on the market. That's what gives us our edge, because we're capable of not only doing great work in terms of technical skills, but also bringing value and bringing our insight based on our experience, saying, oh, to solve this problem, I would recommend you going that way or this way. And bringing that value, that strategic value to a client, and being able to phrase it, not only having it in your head, but phrasing it to give them options.
And we make sure that people are communicating internally with each other in a way that is professional and succinct, and we make sure that that's the way that we communicate with our customers as well.
And I want to show you a few ways that make email more useful.
People that want to improve their communication through public speaking can do that through the conferences that we're involved in. They can do it through SSW TV.
You might actually not need to go native, guys.
We have a lot of videos that kind of help get your face out there, to get your name out there. We also have a really good social media presence. We have a great marketing team that takes care of that.
We are client-facing all the time. There's no way to work at SSW and just be behind the desk and not talk to anyone. Every day you have to communicate. So that brings communication as a core skill of what you become. And some people develop it a way further, like by doing public speaking. We have awesome speakers. I think NDC videos prove that. We have awesome tech tips and even conferences given by SSW people. I think we had like 6 or 7 this year, so that's pretty huge.
One of the exciting things about working here is we're always on the bleeding edge of technology. We're always trying to reach out to those new projects. What are other people doing? What's the next best thing? I think Adam being a Microsoft Regional Director really gives us a bit of an edge in that regard as well, because he usually knows what's in the pipeline before other people do.
We've had many younger guys come through SSW, and in a few short years, they've become absolutely amazing developers.
You can have guys with just a few years of experience and they're building software that's affecting tens of thousands of users with some guidance of the software architects. It just works. Like, it's amazing. You build something and you test it that you can enter an order, and then all of a sudden you can enter thousands of orders like in seconds. It's just incredible. We couldn't do that a few years ago.
We have a couple of different ways that we socialize. Every lunchtime, we're killing each other in board games, which is always good.
It's interesting because those games, are about psychology. That's very interesting. You learn a lot about people.
The most exciting thing that we do is obviously our company retreats. We go away for a weekend after doing a brainstorming session. On the Friday, we all work together as a group and work out, problems for the company itself. We always try and keep the activities a little bit different to make it a bit of fun.
It's just a great weekend all around.
People that come to work here want to be at that level of globally recognized expertise that some of the best guys at SSW are at. And even if you're not at that stage now, I think that a lot of people that come to work here are inspired by that.
A lot of clients come to us with maybe a general idea of what they want. And you can use your expertise and past experience to really inform their decisions and make sure that they're developing the best possible product. I really enjoy that part of it. I think that would be very satisfying for anyone who's been working on maintaining an old piece of software or maintaining an old system. If they could come and maybe work on some new greenfields projects and potentially influence the way that product comes out at the other end.
You can come up with cool designs, you can come up with new solutions, you can come up with elegant ways of solving problems that haven't really been done before, and plus you get to build something. And often the projects that we're engaged with, you get to build something that's going to make a difference.
People want more stuff automated, they want richer interfaces, they want bot interfaces. The architecture keeps expanding, the knowledge of Azure keeps growing. Like, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better. I'm still trying to make solutions quicker, more maintainable, cheaper, and there's a long way to go.
I feel like Adam's true competitive personality only comes out on retreats. Like we go on a bushwalk, or we play tennis, or we go swimming, or we go go-karting, and all of a sudden he's just like, get out of the way!
Thank you very much for coming in, guys. I hope you all enjoyed your rides today, and I hope we see you all again, guys.
To SSW. Coming up this month, GitHub rolls out ARM64 on Actions, promising faster builds at lower costs. Microsoft Edge hits a new market share milestone, and Vercel announced Next.js 15, which has React 19 support. I'm Adam Kogan. Let's get into it.
G'day team, Adam Kogan here, and this month I'm coming to you from SSW France. We have just done a beautiful renovation here. We're right in the home of Strasbourg. It is a great place. I was greeted by lots of bread and croissants, and of course the coffee tastes better when it's in the Tina mug. We just gave away a ton of merch. We've got nothing left from NDC Oslo. You can earn your own merch, even if you don't go to these conferences, by earning reward points in the SSW Rewards app. So grab that and do the quizzes, and you'll watch the videos and you'll earn points. And NDC Oslo, I was talking on AI. Those sessions will be up on their YouTube channel shortly. All right. So while I was in Norway, I will just tell you about this garbage bins. I found this incredible. You can see these garbage bins and they're everywhere, but you don't really, I didn't notice them at first. See all these garbage bins around the place? You know, people empty them there, and when they get to a certain level, they're informed, and then they empty it there. And I was wondering, where's the driver? There's no driver in there, because I thought this was being operated by the truck itself. And I just didn't realize this guy just standing there with a remote control thing was controlling the whole thing. Does it all by himself, puts it in there, and then empties all the bins. Yeah, fantastic. And they're just small. They take a lot of garbage, obviously, and they have all the different types of garbage. Yeah, excellent Norwegian technology. I see something cool every time I go there. All right, let's just watch him put it away just by himself. Just one guy does all these bins. Really, really smooth. You know, the other thing about Norway is it's just quiet. People are riding bikes. 70% of the vehicles are electric, so they're all quiet. Nobody toots their horn in Norway. I guess they're all pretty peaceful, and they're not in a hurry. And now let's jump into the SSW Tech News. And straight after this will be a session called Modern Websites, Why Everyone is Choosing Next.js and the Best Headless UI Library. That's done by Jack Pettit. He works on the TinaCMS project, actually, and works with Next.js a lot. So he's a great person to learn more about that. You can read the description here, and that should be a great session. Now, the first piece of news, Next.js have version 15 released, or it's coming very shortly, and it supports React 19. There's a whole lot of stuff, so you can read all about that. That's pretty important. Next piece of news is Vercel, who make Next.js. They have released this AI SDK 3 with generative AI support. So you've got this bot that you can use, and it's pretty intelligent. You can have a look. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So this one is about stocks. So you can say, what is the price of Tesla? And let's have a look. Oh, and it gives me a nice graph. I could say, can I purchase 10 shares? How much are they? They are probably pretty expensive. Yeah, 650 times 10. Yeah, 6,000. Do you want to purchase? Should I press it? I don't think it has my details. And you've successfully purchased. What the hell? I just spent $6,000. No, just joking. This is a demo environment. Thank goodness. But yeah, that's the functionality of that type of bot. So you can check that out at chat.vercel.ai. All right, next piece of news, GitHub Copilot extensions. Now, this is good. Now, this was written by Mario Rodriguez. He came from Azure DevOps, and he's talking about all these extensions. And what have we got? One from Docker and Microsoft 365, Azure, Teams. And then we've got things like we use Octopus Deploy. There he is. We use Stripe. There's another one. So let's have a look at these. They've got extensions from data stacks. Now, haven't used that. Let's go and pretend that, let's go and have a look at the videos they give us. So let's assume I'm a SQL dev. I know SQL well, I know Cosmos, but I don't know anything about vector databases. And now I have a project, so I have to use this. Let's just have a look at how that works. I will just go through and you can ask this. So if you look on the left-hand side there, so tell me about my databases. So it will then answer with, here are the details about your databases. And you'll have a look through and you'll see the first one, the second one, you'll see the type is vector there. So, okay, so I've got 2 vector databases, and then you just start asking more and more questions in the VS Code IDE. So tell me about the collections in my RAG teacher database. And it will tell you, well, here you go. You got a Python collection and a TypeScript collection. And you can ask it any type of questions to try to get a handle on what's going on here. So how would I connect to the Astro database? And then it just tells you all the steps to go through to do that. Okay. And then as you get a bit further, you ask another question and another question. So this is really useful. You can learn a lot. I think that's awesome. Let's go and have a look at another one here. So the next GitHub Copilot extension is the Octopus deploy extension for GitHub. So let's have a look at this, and let's assume that I'm good at Azure DevOps and I know how the build and the deploy works, or the I've been using GitHub Actions. Let's see how I get things done in this Octopus new world. So we'll go through and we will have a look at what we're doing, and then we'll ask it a question. So let's go to the bottom and ask it a question. And the first question I say, hey, Octopus, show me the dashboard. And it will then give you, this is your dashboard. You've got your dev, test, production. And I'll ask another question. Hey, Octopus, list any URLs from the different deployment environments that I have. And so then it will list those URLs. Great. And then let's have a look at what's the next question. List any security vulnerabilities in the latest deployment. Basically looking at the logs and putting a markdown table. So it will go ahead and do that. There it all is. Now we will put another one there, which says, let me read that, build release notes. Okay, so, hey, Octopus, can I have the release notes from the last 5 deployments? And then it will show all that. Now, let's just say that's just too much information. Then you can go ahead and ask another one and say, look, I want the success represented with a little green emoji and the red emoji for other statuses. And, put these 5 last deployments in a markdown table. And then it will format like this. So all the normal ChatGPT type functionality you're used to, you have inside your normal VS Code environment with these extensions. So that's great. And, they show you more and more of these examples. I'll just take one more, and that's the GitHub Copilot for Azure. So let's have a look at some of the examples in their video here. And they talk through this. But we're in here and we're asking a question. What Azure OpenAI resources are deployed? Okay, so I don't know what's there. It is now going to tell me what I've got there. So I've got this one and this one. So I've got 2. Okay, that's great. And then I'll ask another question. Let me full screen this. And how many web apps are deployed in East US? Oh, there, it's going to run a graph query. And look, it also gives you information. So you now know how to run that yourself, and you can run the query in Azure Resource Graph. So you might find that really educational, that you know how to use different environments better. So I think that's pretty awesome. Let's move on to the next piece of news. And the next piece of news is GitHub Actions are going to get faster. And that's because GitHub Actions are offering ARM hosted runners now. So you can read all about it. It's cool. You've got the founder from Spice AI, who says it's great. It's been faster, and apparently it's cheaper as well. So you can read all about that. They use less power, and they're a lot more efficient. So that seems to be the direction that we're heading. So you can try that out. Next piece of news. Let's have a look at this one. JFrog. Now, JFrog is a company that you will want to be involved with if you're doing DevSecOps. If somebody says, hey, we need to do a security audit, JFrog might be involved in that. And now they've got a partnership going with GitHub, so that's good. Okay. We also have a released version of .NET Aspire, and Visual Studio, so that's good. We've been using that in our environments because it spins up, just with the F5 experience, spins up all the different cloud resources in the right order, and it's a lot nicer way to work when you've got a whole lot of different cloud resources. Next piece of news, Edge. I found this funny. They reached 13.14 in the desktop browser market. What does that mean? It means it's now gone from number 3 to number 2. It has gone past Safari. So it is slowly growing. So Chrome is still massive, but it's slowly losing a few points, where Safari and Edge are growing, but Edge is growing a little faster on the desktop market. Okay, you kind of forget about that, don't you? Next one. Now, if you want to know more about the key announcements at the React conference, you'll find all this stuff about React 19 and what's in there. There's plenty to read, but React is obviously very important, especially important because we use it in other environments as well, like Next.js. Okay. We're always talking about different AIs. We mostly use OpenAI and ChatGPT, but we also use some of the others. And one of the other quite different ones is going to be XAI from Elon Musk. And they got a whole bunch of money and $6 more billion to spend. Now, poor Google, they had problems with Bard. Now they have problems again. They have shut down the Google AI search results because it was giving a whole bunch of bad answers. Here's a real question people would say: how much glue do I add to my pizza? Well, according to the Business Insider article, you should add 1/8 of a cup or 2 tablespoons of non-toxic glue to my pizza, which I'm sure some people have followed. And anyway, they've had to shut down that for the time being. Now, if you remember back, it seems like a long time ago, but Sam Altman was sacked from OpenAI one Friday. We spent the whole weekend wondering what was going on, and then Satya Nadella was going to hire him and a whole bunch of them. Anyway, it all got sorted out, but one of the people that hadn't spoken was Helen Toner. And I had a different impression of her from what had happened versus what she said happened. So she's interviewed here, and she gave a whole different account of what her experience was being on the board and not knowing what was going on. Next piece of news, the Windows AI feature, which is called Recall, was recalled, which is kind of funny. Now, I spoke about this at NDC just 2 days ago, and I asked the audience, and you'll be able to watch this when they release it, but something like, how many people here love the idea of this feature? It takes screenshots of what you're doing, and then you can ask a question. Hey, a few days ago, I was looking at a browser, and I was looking for dual monitor arms. Can you find that? And not many people in a massive audience said they liked it. So I wasn't sure. So I said, how many people do not want this feature? And it looked like almost 100% of the people put up their hand. They do not want screenshots being taken by Microsoft
I was shocked because I liked the idea. So, of course, it made me think, wow, I wonder what they're going to say about this Apple Intelligence that was just released. And, that sucks in all your emails, sucks in all your messages, looks at all your photos, goes to your videos, and apparently turns that into a local LLM. Now, there's also stuff being used on the cloud, so we don't know how much is being, what's happening on the local device, what's happening in the cloud. A lot of talk about privacy. I asked the Norwegians how many people want this, and it was a significant portion of the room, close to 50% wanted that feature. And then how many did not want? Only a handful. So, this is a lot more than a few screenshots, but people love it. Go figure. Anyway, Google, they have a recall-like feature. Hopefully, when they release it, they probably don't fluff it, and they generate some interest in this, because they haven't had a good run of it, or Google. Now, Microsoft is making File Explorer more powerful with version control and 7Z compression. Now, I think this is really interesting because if you look here, you will see, let's go into here, you can see your Git repos in the familiar Windows Explorer environment. I think people are going to really like this. It's a lot more approachable than using terminals and things. So this might be great. I'm really excited by that. OpenAI, you can call all their APIs now from a .NET library. They have it all for the GPT 4.0 model, not 4.0, 4.0 model. And you can get all that from a library from NuGet, which is great. And our last piece of news, and there it is, actually. That will show our nice little library there. So that's awesome. All right, so this video, like all the past SSW Tech News, will be on the SSW TV channel. So that's the news for this month. If I missed anything, please throw it down there in the chat. We all love to learn. And this is Adam Kogan signing off for SSW TV.
Go. Hey everybody. Hello, we've got a nice little audience here in Brisbane. Thank you, Adam, for the tech news today. Some interesting stuff up there. Looks like we're going to be watching Netflix in Brisbane. We started a new way to swap the screens around in Brisbane, and well, this is the test run. But for the Brisbane audience, we're just going to wait for a little second. Well, how cool is the Next 15? I've heard a lot of positive stuff about it recently, so it sounds like Next 14, there's a lot of controversy. I'm not sure if people are using it or not, but Next 15, at least Twitter is approving. It's a hard sell, but looks like we're there. Amazing. So hello everybody, welcome to my talk. I have changed the title, but it is still essentially the same content. So yes, today we're going to be talking about Next.js and shadcn UI and kind of the future of modern website development. So a bit about me, I'm Jack. I'm a software engineer here at SSW. I ride a motorbike. I have a little CBR 500. It's currently broken. Don't ask when it'll be fixed. Hopefully soon. I do miss it dearly. on this slide, I used to have Xgamer because I've just been coding a lot recently, but the Power World has drawn me in, so I'm not sure if anyone's a kind of Pokemon fan or not, but check it out. It's a fun little game. You can follow me on Twitter and GitHub there. If you don't already have the SSW Rewards app, I would very much recommend downloading it, and you can get some really cool rewards. It's on iOS and Android, and you can scan that code if you feel like it. Awesome. So for today, we're going to be talking first up kind of about the JavaScript ecosystem, kind of where it is, where it started to where it is now. We're going to talk about what is Next.js and what is this shadcn UI thing with the weird name. We're going to talk about setting up a Next.js project. Then we're going to have a little fun, a few demos about building UI components with shadcn. Then have a little play around with some forms. And then I'll just leave some further resources, and that will be everything. So the JavaScript ecosystem today, well, JavaScript's everywhere, for better or for worse, as my colleagues would say. But me being mainly a front-end developer, it's a very big chunk of what I do. And I'm also working on the TinaCMS team, so even more JavaScript and Next.js experience. But way back before even JavaScript, it was just HTML before my time. And then, it came along with CSS and JavaScript, and there's this jQuery thing, and, the internet's built on that. Thankfully, I missed that. Some people love it, who knows? But then came in Facebook, and they're like, hey, here's the thing called React. And it really changed the kind of the game to how we make websites, how we build UIs, this virtual DOM. Everyone's like, whoa, that's so cool. And the community like really supported it. So what does that kind of look like today? Well, we've now got this JSX thing, JavaScript, XML. It's just HTML plus JavaScript. I think it looks really good. I think it's very easy to read. Maybe people will disagree with that. But I think it's, for the most part, very, very good. Probably the best way, in my opinion. But front end is hard at the end of the day. There's an ever-growing number of things that we need to learn. And even Lee Robinson himself, the VP of product at Vercel, believes so. So what comes next? Well, frameworks. React by itself is awesome. It's a very powerful thing. It's got this cool virtual DOM. But, how can we take that to production and really let developers have a good UX as well as the consumers? So today we're going to be primarily talking about Next.js. But at SSW, we're an enterprise shop. A lot of our stuff is Angular. I'm not going to talk too much about Angular, but a lot of people either love Angular or they hate it, and they love React or they hate it. So that's kind of the two camps. Then you've got all the Vue, Svelte, Solid, and the millions of others that are created every day. But, is React is it still used? Is it popular? Obviously, I've got a job because of React. Many people do, but this Angular thing, we're using it all the time, must be really good and super popular. Well, let's actually have a look at the little weekly downloads, and we can see this massive green line at the top, and that's React. So it's used, it might be a bit small, but it's 24.3 million downloads a week. So there's quite a lot of websites and developers using React. This is from the NPM Trends website. And then that second line, the orange one there, is Next. So, that's at 6.2 million. And for consideration, the blue line, kind of one of the ones down the bottom with 400,000 downloads, still a lot, is Angular. But okay, it's popular. But, is it loved? Well, we can see it looks like it is. If we're going by GitHub stars, and that's the standard, it's got hundreds of thousands of stars, and that means it must be good, right? So we got React 200,000. Whoa. Next 122,000. It's really cool. So we can see, it's popular, it's loved. That's pretty cool. But where does, if my computer works, where does it actually sit? Is it good? Is it bad? I'm not going to make that decision, but hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to see, okay, maybe it is kind of cool, and there's a reason why React is awesome. But before you can even really decide about that, let's actually talk about what this Next.js and shadcn UI thing are. So what is Next.js? Well, it's owned by Vercel. They're a very big company at the moment, kind of shipping all these cool products, all these AI things. I think there was one in the tech news about some AI SDK, revolutionizing how we can chat to AI instead of just text. We get components. How cool. But let's hear it from the actual React devs. Well, they call it the React framework. So you can use React with Vite is the popular one now. It used to be create React app. Now they're saying use Next. It's a very, very solid template to start from. But what does that actually mean? Well, it comes with some bells and whistles. We have routing. So by default, Next.js, React doesn't really come with a routing solution. You have to bring in React Router is the common one. But Next of like, okay, let's do folder-based routing. And I think it's a very, very good approach to routing. So what does that actually mean? Well, say you go to this website here, and you go to /dashboard/settings. Well, that maps exactly to your folder structure. So in this app router, you've got a dashboard, you've got a settings, and then to actually what's shown to the website, you've got these file conventions, and we've got this page. And that's actually what's shown. So that's cool. We got folder-based routing. Okay, other things can do that. Well, we've also got static and dynamic content loading. So, if you're on an e-commerce website and you've got all these hot items that you need to load in from some remote API, well, you don't want to wait for everything to be loaded. You can stream them in and still allow the user to be navigating around. Cool. We've also got optimizations. It's kind of trivial, I guess, nowadays. All these frameworks, it's kind of just built in, but still worth mention. We've got JavaScript minification. So obviously sending less JavaScript to the end user means they have a better experience. On these low-end devices, places where internet isn't as good, they're getting a better experience. Also, image optimization. You don't want to be sending a 4K resolution image down to some phone in the middle of nowhere. It's going to take years to load. So Next.js does that for you, just built in, if you use that component. It also has a backend, kind of crazy. Here at SSW, we're a kind of Next.js or .NET kind of powerhouse, very close ties to Microsoft. So a lot of our APIs and backends are in C#, but that doesn't mean you can't leverage Next.js's APIs as well. So what does that actually mean for the deployment story? Well, Vercel's got a very easy deployment route. A guy called Tyler Kappa, who works here, also did another talk on Vercel, and you can deploy a Next site in a matter of minutes, which is really cool. But okay, cool. You kind of went through all that pretty quickly. It's a lot of stuff, right? So let's have a little recap. What is Next.js? Well, it's a full stack framework. It's got this thing called an app router, and it's got an API, so a backend in it. We've got a very powerful folder-based routing system, supports static and dynamic content, and has a lot of built-in optimizations just ready for you. But cool. All right, so we have the framework sorted. We know how we can, ship this HTML out to the user in a pretty good way. But how do we actually build good UIs? Something that, is easy to create, but also giving, well thought out design. Well, we bring in UI libraries. At SSW, time is money. Clients pay a lot of money for us. And we can't just be creating, even though I'm sure some of us want to, Sam in the back, thank you, Sam. The U-Butte, amazing, polished, gold star UI. You just want to use a UI library. The client just wants the thing. You give them the thing in the quickest amount of time. So we're going to be talking about, obviously, shadcn for this talk, but there's plenty of others, from Material UI and Design, a new one that seems to be pretty popular, Mantine UI, and there's as many as there's probably people in the world coming up. But if I didn't mention your favorite one, I'm sorry. There's a limited list here. So how do we actually see kind of what's popular? We're back to the GitHub stars. So we can see by number of stars is this big yellow line that's been around for quite a long time, over 9 years, and that's Material UI. So people love it. It's a thing by Google. People like Google, that type of aesthetic. It's a very good library, has a lot of components, but it's more of the traditional side where they've got a theme, you can override it, and I mean, they're moving towards this CSS and JS solution. But I would say they're more of the traditional UI. If we have a look at this kind of orange line that's kind of shooting up, well, that's shadcn. And it's kind of been sweeping through the Twitterverse kind of recently, and people have been really loving it. It's kind of fighting off of the back of Tailwind CSS as being this really, really good way to write CSS. I know, again, hot topic. People hate it or they love it. I'm of the opinion it's awesome, and for working in teams, it's saved my life so many times. Not really, but it saved me a lot of hours. But okay, so we can see this cool new thing, but what actually is it? Well, it looks good for starters, but it's not the typical component library. And what I mean by that is it's not exactly an NPM package you can download and bring into your project. It's not like the traditional, but it is beautifully designed components that are just copy and pastable. For shadcn, it has a CLI tool that you can just, essentially it's like installing a package, but just it copies and pastes the code into your project. And these are components that have, everyone, they're very aesthetically pleasing, but they're accessible and responsive and open source. So by default, the community's made 41 of these, just part of the main Shad UI. I'm gonna minimize the naming of it. Kind of component, not component library. And they're really cool. But again, you don't need all of them. So you only take what you need, and then you can fully customize it with CSS, with Tailwind CSS. And the greatest benefit I found is, well, it's your code now. It's in your project. You can change it. You can modify it. You don't need to go find a CSS class, overwrite that like you would a traditional UI library. So what does this CLI kind of thing look like? It's pretty easy. In this example, we're using npx, so it's not actually downloaded on your computer, but we're just adding a button, and then that button is now living in your project, so you can just import it in like anything else, and then you can just render it out. How cool is that? So much like every other UI library out there, it does have theming and colors, excuse me. And on their website, they have a pretty simple, but highly customizable theming initial choice selector, where you can customize, you can see kind of what all the colors are going to do. And then these just get copied out into CSS variables. So if you're like, normally you're looking through a massive CSS file and maybe there's stuff everywhere. You're looking, okay, what's the color for this? Well, here it's all in the span of like 50 lines and you can see everything. Your designer's like, thank you. All the colors are here. I can play around with it. But they also do this block thing. I'm going to demo that a bit later. It's pretty cool. And if you guys haven't heard about it, it also has V0 support. So Shad now works at Vercel, and he's helped with the V0 project. So we're going to have a look at that later as well. But it's basically a way to kind of get very quick mock-ups from a little, generated prompt. So cool. Let's have a little recap. So we've got 41 plus components, plus all the many community ones, and we'll have a look at some of those later as well. Full customization, accessibility, responsiveness, just all built in. We got this V0 thing. That's really cool. Tailwind, amazing. React, we love it. So let's actually have a go at kind of setting up a project. So this is more of the kind of beginner stuff, just setting it up, see what it's like. Is it easy? Is it hard? Well, let's have a demo. So let me just change my monitor. We are doing this live. Wish me luck. Okay, we are having a little bit of technical difficulties. Okay, we're getting closer. Oh my goodness. Why is this so difficult now? Okay, amazing. Let's go back over here and try to bring these in. Okay, actually, I'm just gonna unplug it because all the monitors are broken. Amazing. All right, slowly getting there. We have a browser on the screen. Let's see where everything else is. Where's this mouse going? My goodness. Okay. My Mac says there is only 2 screens, and they do not include my laptop. Okay, whew, we did it. we did it. So it will be a little difficult because I would have liked to mirror this, but we'll get started anyway. So we're going to create a new Next.js project from scratch, and we're just going to add in shadcn UI, and then we're going to add in some themes, and then we'll get back to the presentation. So I just copy and pasted a command in. You can find this command on the nextjs.org website. Just given it a few little details, just to say we want this to be in TypeScript and to use Tailwind. So it's just saying, what are we going to call it? I'm going to say user group. I don't want it to be source directory. I do want to use the app router, and that is okay as a default. Cool. Let's cd in here, and let's just run it. But first up, let's actually see what we got. So I'll minimize this, and we can see it's an app router by this app folder here. And I keep saying this app router, just to be clear, there is in older versions a pages router. So if you see a pages folder, that means the Next.js project is using the pages routing. There is a slight difference. It's a bit less or more implicit. So if you put any files in a page, they can be accessed from the website, whereas with the app router, there's certain file conventions. So only the page.tsx will be shown to the browser. So we have this global CSS anyway, and we have this layout. So this is one of the app router kind of file conventions. So it has, in this case, it is the root layout. So it is the thing that will encompass the whole app. If you wanted to put a nav bar in here, a footer, this is going to be wrapping around all the sub pages. So the first kind of page that it gives you is, I'm going to say this is generated from V0, is the landing page. So let me do some work to try find my main monitor again. If we can. It's not up. It's not right. Amazing. What we can do. So we should be able to click on this. Yay. And you can see this is what's given by default. So it's just a, very regular page. It's got some dark mode for the developers, but has some cool links to some of them. But let's actually add shad UI. So I'm just going to open up another terminal. I think I need to actually go into the directory. And I'm just going to, sorry, I keep moving away from the mic. Oops. I'm going to try run this init command. So again, if you go to shadcn UI, I'm going to say .org, but it might be .com, you'll find the instructions all there, and this command will be there. So we're just going to go through this quickly. We're just doing the defaults. So it's just default, some color choices. We got slate. Do we want to use CSS variables? I think you should. And it will initialize and just create a few files. So let's actually have a look at what's created. Well, we now have this components folder that wasn't here before. We've also got this lib folder, and we've got this utools.ts. So with shadcn UI, it really uses Tailwind CSS to style everything. And a lot of the common issues with using Tailwind CSS is, sometimes you want to, all your logic is in this JSX file, and you want to be able to set certain styles given on conditions. So what we can do is we can use something called CLSX and then TW merge to kind of safely combine all the Tailwind. If you haven't used something like this before, I highly recommend it if you're using Tailwind. Even if you don't want to use shadcn, just like take this. Saves. It's awesome. We also have a components.json file now that got created. So this is just for the actual CLI tool that we used. And it just gives a general guide of where everything is in your project. So it's determined, hey, you've got Tailwind. We can find the config here. We've got this cool component file folder. That's where we're going to chuck everything if we use this CLI. And we've got this util. So awesome. I guess I should also mention it has actually updated this global.css file. Let me just save, it's annoying me. Which it gives you kind of a normal, I guess, light theme and a dark theme as well. And all of these colors here, they're just CSS variables. And if we actually have a look in our Tailwind config, this has also been updated. And we can see the colors here are now referenced. It uses HSL. You can change it up. Some people don't like that. You can change it to whatever you want. But main thing is it's using those variables and those colors straight into Tailwind. So, a designer comes in, they're like, cool, what colors do I need to change? Well, you point into a single place, hey, here's everything. And they know this is exactly what's being used. So cool, we've got shadcn in, and we've got next. So we can kind of go back up and we can have a look here. And whoa, it's white now. So it's also done a few other things. It's added a background style now in this file. Cool. We're saying, hey, use the background. But let's go a bit further and we can add in some themes. So Next.js, React, pardon me, have some, very good community support. So my eyes, here we go. There we go. We're there. It's got some very good support. So someone in the community has made this Next themes. So if you're using theming, if you want a light and dark mode, there's actually a tutorial on shadcn UI how to do all this. So, they point you to here. This is a very good library. We're just going to install it. And all we need to do is create a theme provider. So I'm just going to kind of chuck that in here. We're going to go theme provider.tsx because we're using TypeScript. And let us chuck the theme provider in here. So what is this? What have I just copied and pasted? Well, I won't go into too much detail, but we've just imported a theme provider from this Next themes. We're renaming it because we actually want the export to be theme provider. And then this is just going to wrap around our project. And now we'll be able to change the theme. So, okay, that was a bit too easy. Well, actually, there's a few things we need to do in here. For simplicity's sake, I am just going to copy and paste some code again. And whoa, we've got some changes. So a few things, you'll head over to the shadcn UI website and you'll follow the installation. It's probably going to be a bit easier without all the technical issues. But you'll see we're now using some of this, like this weird variable. Well, that's to get the correct font. So we want to use inter, but it's just easier to override font sans. Saying that, to actually make that work, well, there is another step we have to do. We need to head back over here and let's actually add the font in. So we need to, again, take in that font from that variable there that we're setting. So this font sans, and we're just going to override it. And then we've also added this top. I don't know why it gives us this require, but let's just change it to something a bit more modern and use imports. So awesome. So coming back to here, we can see we're now using this CN utility. We've added some base styles here. And now we're using this theme provider. So if I once again go back over to the website, you see, well, nothing has really changed. It's still white. But let me close this just to prove that it's working, hopefully. We'll change this to doc. And let's try again. Fingers crossed. Hey, we got theming working. So honestly, it's very simple to start a new project with Next with just a few things. You can get theming working just in like that. I'm going to go back to the actual PowerPoint. Wish me luck. It is loading. My computer's not liking being on the stage. All right. Okay, well, there's no actual way I can access that monitor, but that's okay. So I was talking about these things. We've got some file conventions in Next. You know, the more to the right you go, the more maybe advanced some of these things are. I'm just going to say, you know, there's a few things you probably won't really use. If you do, awesome. But they're not generally used that much. But starting off at the core, obviously we have pages. So that's what you're working with, what is actually being sent to the end user on the browser. We've got the layout. So these are just, you know, wrapping everything in your project. So it's, you know, you want to have a nav bar and a footer. And then we've got this route thing. Well, that's for the API. So if you put stuff, or if you put routes under the /API folder, you'll be able to send, or actually be able to call that endpoint as an API endpoint. We've also got you know, error loading, not found. So these are just things that you can use to, you know, handle those types of things. So if a page or something, an item isn't found, you've now got a fallback. Think of them as kind of error boundaries. We also have this cool thing called middleware. So, you know, if you set up authentication, which is the common case, you can just, you know, stop people from going and hitting the page and then, you know, authenticating. You can move that authenticating logic and blocker into the middleware. Awesome. So we've kind of set up Next.js and shadcn. We've got some themes. It's looking okay. But let's actually have a play around and see what we can do with components and shadcn. So we're going to start off with buttons. I know buttons really kind of boring, everywhere boring, but you know, by default you get 6. This is what the default buttons look like. But you know, let's make something cool. So let's have a look and see what we can do. So I'm going to go back over to my project. I'm going to go to this other little terminal here. And normally I would demonstrate actually going over to the website, but I can't actually access my main monitor in front of me. So I do have a backup, thankfully. And we're just going to copy this button. So this is using that CLI. And all we're doing here is we're calling that CLI and we're just adding a button. Simple, right? So it's going to do a little thing and done. So what did that actually do? Well, we can now see, oh, this is great. Something has changed. Well, it's now made a UI folder within buttons and it's actually added a button. You're like, what? That's not normally how UI libraries work. Well, again, you own the code. So, you know, if you wanted to change how this button works, you can do it right here. Anything in here you can touch. So, you know, we've got this cool button, but let's actually make it cool. So I'm just gonna, again, got a cool button, and we're just gonna paste that in. So what are we doing? Well, this is just a bunch of Tailwind CSS. It is not mine, and I will show you the link to it in a second. But you can see a lot of Tailwind. Some people hate it, but hey, it's all here. No one can mess with it. So, okay, we've added a variant. I will say that this CVA, or class variance authority, is a pretty cool feature. You know, it has some base styles, and then you can set actual properties, or, you know, variance or size. That can be props on components. So let's actually go to our page, and well, we don't really need any of this anymore. So let us get rid of that. And then we're just going to bring in this button. You see it's at that component UI button. I'm just going to say, yeah, click me. And let's see what this looks like. It should just be the default boring button. It is. Amazing. Just so it's a bit nicer, let's just go back to layout, and we'll change it back to light mode. Cool. So as I was saying, we've just added a new variant. So we've gone into this button component, and we've added a new variant. So what does that mean? Well, we can now type in variant. It's got type safety, and you can see, oh, there's a cool variant here. So let's see what it does. Let me zoom in a little bit. But now if we hover over this, oh, we got a cool little effect. That's super cool. So let's go back here. Hopefully it doesn't lag again. And you know, that was the cool shad button. Obviously you can go crazy. You can make this button into whatever you want. It doesn't even have to be a button anymore. But you've got the full control. If you want to see where I got the code for that button, check out that link down there. They have a bunch more cool enhancements on buttons that you can just pull in to your project. Cool. So kind of brushed over it before, but there's this thing called blocks. So blocks are kind of been around for a little bit, but they seem to be coming back again and in Storm. And it's going to be a bit difficult to demo because I don't have access to a browser, but actually I can make do. So let's have a little demo of what blocks can do. So let's go to shadcn UI. Let's just search for it. And this is the website. But at the top here, there is blocks. So you're like, wow, there's some cool stuff in here. That would take a long time to build. Well, see this little button, we can click that. And you know what? Yeah, this one looks cool. Let's copy that and bring it into our project. So let's just create a new file here. We'll call it blockdemo.tsx, and we're just going to paste it in. So we're missing a few things. It uses card and progress, but we can just use the CLI again to bring them in. But we now have something that could have taken, you know, a designer's time, your time, to make a pretty well-rounded card in the matter of seconds, right? So just for simplicity's sake and not eating up too much time, I'm just going to comment that out for a second. But blocks really are awesome. And on this website, there's many, many more. There's also other blocks you can get. Definitely check them out. Saves a lot of time. So we've done the demo. V0, another cool thing. It's made again by Vercel, integrates with Shad UI. So let's have a look at that as well. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do this roundabout way to get there, but that is okay. v0.dev. So you come to this, looks a bit plain, but it is essentially what it says it does. I'm not going to do it now because it takes a little bit of time to load up, but essentially you can put whatever prompt you want in, and it will generate 3 kind of sketches that it thinks match your description. And then you can pick one and refine it. So down here, you can also see, well, these are all the people currently using it, and you can see their prompts and what they're getting. Then you can keep on refining and refining and refining. And then you can just copy the code straight into your project, or use their CLI and bring it and install it. So it's a very, very powerful tool to use. Maybe. Awesome. So that was a little demo. So that's kind of just been a quick little demo run through of how we can customize components. Obviously, there's more and more complex ones, but that's just to get us started. So let's take a look at forms. So forms can be tricky, can be complex. Somehow they always become complex, and everyone has to include one. So shadcn has a good starting plate. It's still a little complex if you're not familiar with forms and the React Hook Forms library. So the shadcn UI Forms actually builds on top of the React Hook Forms library, and you get a quite nice trial. So you can see obviously the actual component down there, but let's have a little demo of that one. So what I would normally do is go to that actual website, shadcn UI, but because my computer is being a bit mean, we are just going to copy the code. Thank God for backups. Cool. So let's actually create this form component. And we will just copy the code in here. So what do we get off the bat? Well, once I actually install all of these things, we can see it's installed Zod for us. So if anyone's familiar with Zod, it's just another type safety layer, does some runtime checks, and it's becoming very, very popular. It also uses a very popular hook building or form building library called React Hook Form. Super recommend it. Definitely very easy to get into, and the docs are really well documented. So obviously we're bringing in this Zod thing. We have another shadcn form, and then here is our first kind of use of Zod. And all we're using here is we're saying, okay, cool, we have a form, and we want our form to only have a username, and we want that username to have a minimum of 2 characters. And if we don't have that, well, we're going to show a message. So that's cool. And then we define the form here. And this is kind of where it gets a little messy. Some might say this is pretty good, but I think we can do a bit better. So, we have this form field, and then, this form item, and we got a label that we need to give it. And then we have this control. Okay, well, we want to use something external. We have our own thing, so we use the shadcn input here. Then we got a description, and then we have the submit button. So it's still quite a lot, but it does give you a good starting place. So I'm actually going to install. Hopefully I have the command. We don't, but oops. Let us just add in the button and change this to form. And that's just going to install all those packages that we need. So that was done, nice and simple. Again, we now have a form component in here. It's installed some libraries for us, but it's a bit crazy in here. But again, there's something you own, you can change, you can play around with. If it's something you don't like, it's fully customizable. So let's actually see what it looks like. We can go back to our page. I'm just going to go Command P and just go page. And we're just going to add it in here. I think I've called it form demo. And let's see what that looks like. Hopefully we've done everything correctly. We haven't. That's okay. But again, we can go back to here. We can go back a slide, and this is what we would end up with. So, you know, a bit of code. This is what it ends up with. We're gonna have to go back a little bit, but cool. So we've kind of had a look at that. We've got a form, and now we can have a look at something a bit simpler. So someone in the community has made more of a form builder. So, you know, you don't want to have to write out all these masses of form controls and form fields and form labels and all this nested stuff. Well, this is the solution to that. Let's have a quick look. Obviously, we got some errors, so we're just going to avoid that one. But again, I am just going to copy and paste some code down into here. Obviously, that is not working. Sad. And we'll call it auto form demo. And we can kind of just go through this code. So already you'll see, again, it is using this Zod typing library to actually format the structure of the form itself. So we can get that type safety and validation checking. And then you can see, well, instead of, you know, using this form, we've brought in, behind the scenes, I haven't actually brought it in yet, but this auto form component. And essentially it is just a form builder that uses shadcn components as its kind of core. And it will just build from this from this form schema. So it knows, hey, I want a username. It should be a string. It is required because it's minimum of 2 fields, and it should have this error message. And then we can come in here and we can you know, give it a bit more details, you know, description, some placeholders. But by default, this will actually use the native browser validation. So you'd be like, if I was able to run this, you would be like, whoa, okay, it's not actually showing the validation I want to see. How can we change that? Well, again, you own the code. So you'd be able to go to this auto form button. I mean, it hasn't been brought in currently, but we can have a look here. And we'll be like, okay, cool. So we've got this submit button here, and let's actually modify this to not use, maybe not all the time. So let's just add it as a prop, but we don't want it to use form validation. So by default, It's coming in here. We can just make it a form validation. Look at that. Thank you, Copilot. And we can add it in here. Oops, not there. Here. Awesome. We can add it in here. It'll be like something like this. So now we've kind of customized the component to suit our needs, because, well, we own the code. It's not like going into a known module, trying to edit that. No, it's in your project. You own the code. It's staying. So now if we did go back over here and this was all working, we would be able to go down here and there would be this prop that shows up that we just added. So just a bit more of a demo about, how you can use some of the community built tools that the React community actually provides and build to save us a bunch of time. So going back here, little recap. It didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to, but forms are hard even without all the technical difficulties. So if you are doing something more complex, definitely use some form library that you've used before. If you're unfamiliar, React Hook Form is great. I've also used Formic in the past. I now mainly just use React Hook Form. It's got all the bells and whistles that you need, wizard support, everything you need. So, Shad UI has a very good starting place. So for simple forms, and then for a form builder that the community's made, it's very powerful. You can use that, but again, simple forms. If you need something more complex, well, you're probably gonna have to build it. So we're coming to the end on this one. So I'm just going to leave you with some kind of further resources to go forward. And kind of just got them here. This PowerPoint will be online, so you'll be able to look at them a bit, actually go to them. But, just some of the docs, some of the things we've had a look at. Next.js have a really good learning place if you're new. SSW, we also have a bunch of rules on the best practices, so you can head there. And then my personal favorite is this awesome shadcn UI library or repo. And this has hundreds of community built packages in here and definitely worth exploring. So kind of today we've gone over the ecosystem, we've gone over what Next.js is, what shadcn UI is. We've set up a project. It's pretty quick, very easy to use. We've customized a bit of the components. Seen, okay, well, they live in our project. Awesome. And we've played around with some forms, had a bunch of technical difficulties, and we're at the end. So this is where you can find the presentation on GitHub. If you've got any feedback today, that would be very, very welcome. You can scan this to give feedback, which would be awesome. You can also earn 500 SSW reward points for this one. So very cool. Leave it up for another few seconds. Awesome. And thank you very much. Hello, Nick.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Nick. And first of all, just wanted to say thank you for a very entertaining presentation.
It was, with all the technical difficulties.
Ladies and gentlemen, are there any questions from the audience?
How have you found using autoform? Like, we used it in anger, like.
Well,
just repeat the question first.
Yes. Someone from the audience is asking, how do I find autoform? Have I used it? And I honestly find it very, very good. For something, if I'm writing up like a small little booking section or something, which is normally just very simple, enter your name, whatever. It's perfect. Honestly, it's super easy. You just write a little schema, the validation works and it's done. I mean, with everything going to more React server component land, kind of the forms are changing. You know, they want us to use actions now, so it might change again. But I think for now, this is, yeah, auto form is really good. If you want to check it out, definitely recommend.
All right, another question?
I was just wondering about the components and how you download them locally and you modify them. That's all cool for customization. But when they get upgraded, you want to get the newer component, all of a sudden you've got all this code that's been changed with a new one. I don't know, I'm just curious on how that's going to happen, like when you get new components coming to upgradables.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yes, to repeat the question, sorry for the people online. Question was, when when a new component comes in, maybe it gets updated, what happens to the one that you've brought in locally? So in that regards, maybe you haven't customized it a lot and it's just an easy, well, you can copy and paste the new one in. If you have customized it a lot, well, you've got the source code of both. Depending on what type of component it is, maybe the changes aren't that drastic and you can just take bits that you want. But for the main core logic of it, there hasn't been any breaking changes that I've experienced. Maybe some slight Tailwind classes that have changed, but again, you can just copy those in if you need.
No, next question.
Just another question was around usage of the source directory or not. I noticed that you didn't, and I was just wondering about the controversy on around that, because personally, I think having a source directory centralizes your app, but I was just interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, so to repeat the question, we got it. It's about the controversy of should we use the source directory or not. Personally, for me, I'm finding not using it a bit nicer in just how I'm using it in my day-to-day. But honestly, it depends on the team. Some people like it, some people don't. It's your preference at the end of the day. It's just another folder to go into. I don't have any real special takes on it. Cool.
All right. Question from online. What's your favorite way of deploying a Next.js website?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the easiest choice is Vercel. Again, Tyler Kappa has a very good talk about getting set up with Vercel and deploying the many different templates you got on there, or any other stuff. It's just point it to your GitHub repo, and wow, there it is. You can add in previews as well, comments. But with anything Next and React Relay, there's also a lot of controversy. So Vercel does have a lot of controversy at the moment. A lot of people are now like, oh, you should self-host everything and save you a bunch of money. So if you do want to go that option, obviously maybe a little Microsoft sellout, but Azure is just another good place to host these types of things.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance tonight. It's been a pleasure. On behalf of Jack Pettit and Nick Aaron, signing off for SSW.
See ya. Cool. Thank you, everybody. Drop my